Good morning, everyone. My name is Belinda Fernandez. I'm a speaker with the John Maxwell team. And today I'm focusing on my next chapter of my book, For the Charismatic Leader by John Maxwell. He's a best-selling author for the New York Times. And today's chapter is focusing on listening. So when it comes to our teams, similarly when it comes to mentoring, we have to listen with an open heart, not listen to reply. We have to listen to understand the person, where they're coming from, and what's important to them. I covered that a little bit yesterday. But when we're listening to people, and this is true of any work that we're involved in, whether it's customer service or being an executive assistant, we have to make sure we understand what the other person is asking us, and we have to make sure that we're not just listening so we can give them a reply. Because sometimes that happens, we think we know the answer, and we think we know what the solution is for them, but they may have a better solution, or they may have something in mind that we have not thought about. So it's important to remember that on our teams. And when we have teams that work together, you'll find that people come with diverse perspectives and they have diverse ways of looking at things. So for example, with me, I don't really speak up unless the managers or the supervisors ask me to speak up. I let other people talk because often other people have a lot to say. And when they do ask me, when they ask for my opinion, or when they ask me to jump in, then I give it, because most of the time I'm like, you know what, they're going to do what they want anyway. They're going to implement the policies they want anyway. And most of the time my ideas are good, but I'll end up getting hurt for expressing them, because I'm not in that management position. I'm not in that position of authority. So I don't really speak up. I just let them do whatever they want. Then if they come to me and they ask me, then I tell them. And I learned that from Eli Goetz. Now, Eli Goetz was a Holocaust survivor, and he survived World War II with his father. And he was a speaker for me when I organized events for Wits University here in Toronto. And he shared with us how they used to survive the Nazi soldiers and their cruelty, and how when the Americans came, they rescued them, but because they didn't have anything to eat for so long, his father had told him, don't eat the meat because it will make us sick. Just boil the meat in the water, the bully beef, and drink that, and then slowly as we get stronger, then we can eat. And then he came here, he lives here in Toronto, and he was saying they were looking for this Nazi soldier, and it was all over the newspapers everywhere. He never said anything. This man was living next door to him. So when they caught him, when the police caught him, they asked him, Mr. Coates, why didn't you say anything? Because you knew that we were looking for him. And he said, well, nobody asked me. And sometimes that's the best way to be a good neighbor, because when I've reported things, when I've reported what's happening to my life, what's been happening to me, people have refused to confirm the truth to the police, and then I've been classified as delusional, which is not fair to me. So I've taken a leaf out of Eli Goetz's book, For Survival in Canada, and I just don't say anything. And the police have also told me, don't report anything, because you report it and then your companies that you work for deny it, or they say, oh, we've solved it internally, except for HSBC. HSBC was very good because they confirmed it, and they let the police speak to the employees there and tell them to tell Credit Suisse to stop interfering in my work and to let me do my work and stop putting calls through that were resulting in everybody getting upset. So we have to learn from others. I'm not a Holocaust survivor, but I've gone through my own struggles. I've gone through my own situations especially in Zimbabwe, like with the land grabs, with the break-ins we had, thefts. I've had my own situations that I've dealt with. I've reported things to the police, and sometimes the police are very good and they will give you advice and tips. But sometimes they just say, you know what, there's nothing we can do, because the thieves these days are so clever at evil. They know how to climb walls. They know how to do all kinds of things that you'd never even imagine. So that's unfortunate, but we have to learn how to survive this life. And we have to look at what are the distractions on our teams. So for example, for me, if equipment is not working properly, sometimes the customers used to tell me, like, we can't hear you, we hear like a scratching on the call when you're speaking to us. We have to test that, and sometimes that testing can affect our health because it's so vigorous. But we have to look at what are the distractions, what are the things that are preventing our teams working together. If there's something, sometimes on our teams, people don't like to speak up because it's a vulnerable area, so they may not be willing to share. And we have to find a way to draw it out of them and not be closed-minded with our own way of thinking. Because if you grew up in Africa, your way of thinking is not going to be the same as somebody who's grown up in America with every opportunity available. It's going to be completely different. And we look at our assumptions, we look at, what is it that we are doing that can either help or hurt our teams. And we listen proactively. So what that means is we listen so that at the end of it we can take action. We don't remain the same. And it's the same thing with my investigation. I don't remain the same. I don't do the same things I used to do. I ignore people now. I know that they're still tracking me, they're still having me followed. It's a waste of time because I've done nothing to deserve it. So I just live my life. I do whatever I can. And if things are not working, I tell the politicians. I've been waiting almost a month now for my EI. It still hasn't come through. So there's things that need to be fixed in Canada. There's a lot of jobs that are falling away because technology is replacing us. So people are sitting at home because we can't get work. It doesn't mean that we're lazy. It doesn't mean that we're sitting on our bums and we can't get off our backsides and help ourselves. I go out every day talking to people, networking, checking signs, applying for jobs. So the perception that I'm a bum and that I'm just sitting at home collecting money is incorrect. Because if I was, I wouldn't be doing this John Maxwell. I wouldn't be jumping on calls with the Jesuits or other organizations to keep learning and following instructions. I would just be sitting at home doing nothing. So we have to be careful of our assumptions because some people are very fortunate. They've had good careers. They've stayed with companies their whole lives. They've never had to leave their companies. I haven't been that fortunate. I haven't also been that fortunate that I've only lived in one country in the world. But the other side of that is that I've had the opportunity to encounter different cultures and to live in different communities. So there's plus and minus sides to everything that we do. And once we understand, then we can take action and we can decide how we want to do things, what we want to do. And it's the same thing with the aid. There's a lot of people fighting for aid for different parts of Africa, where the African leaders still want it. But for me, if the SADC region don't want it, and they don't want that aid coming from America, then good for them. More power to them. If they're going to come together and find a way to do it through the Organization of African Unity and the African Development Bank, that's good. Because in my post to them in my communications to them on social media. That's what I've always encouraged them to do, because in a way, it's foreseeable that this point would come where the US would say, we don't want to continue giving aid, we don't want to continue having money going out of the country when there's problems at home that we need to fix. And it's the same with the tariffs, because everybody's up in arms about the tariffs. But if you actually go to America, if you live there, I've met a lot of Americans who have left there to come here, and they regret it. They're like, everything's so expensive here. Your guys' furniture is so expensive. Your bedding, your towels, your clothes, everything's so expensive. I said, well, that's because you guys get everything from China and all these other places. And so you have that buying power, and your country is vast compared to ours. And they're like, you know what, when we came here, we left everything. We just sold everything and we came thinking that it's going to be easy to start up, to get furniture, to set up a home, and it's very, very difficult compared to America. I said to them, well, you have to make that choice whether you want to stay here or go back, because that's how Canada is. And when people live in South Africa and England and all these places, they think that they're going to come here and it's going to be easy to set up, to get jobs, to furnish your place, and it's the exact opposite. You might get one or two people who have sponsors already in place, and they have people who can open doors for them and who can help them get breaks in the companies. But for the vast majority of us, that's not the case. So it's important to remember that, especially for immigrants and women who are coming here, and especially those of us who are on our own. It's not as the way they make it seem from the outside. It's very difficult and it's very different. And renting furnished places doesn't happen. They rent you the place with nothing in it. You have to buy everything, your bed, your towels, your crockery, your cutlery. It's not like England, where you go and you rent a room in a house and they provide you everything, or you rent an apartment and they provide you everything. Here they don't provide anything. So it's important to remember that. And if you come with the mindset of knowing what you're coming up against, then it's different. But if you come here thinking that, okay, I've got my skills, my qualifications, my credentials, I'll be able to get a job and I'll be able to set up, it doesn't work out that way. So it's very hard and it is difficult. And that's why a lot of people choose to leave here and to go to America. Even if you look at the Liberal Party leader, Mark Carney, why isn't his headquarters here in Canada? Why is he setting up his headquarters in America? Because he gets more tax breaks there. Because it's easier for him to make his money there. So that's why some people like me are saying, well, why should I vote for you? Because you're interested in making yourself richer, but what about the rest of us? So those are the things that we have to think about. If this is, an American leader, but there's things we can gain from it. There's things that we can learn from it when we listen to understand, when we listen to build up our teams. And it's the same thing that I had said to Teleperformance, because they had told us when we joined, there's no salary increases, there's no wage increases. If you come here, you're just going to stay on that rate for whatever the minimum is. I said, well, then what is the incentive for me to stay here? So they gave us a 50-cent increase. So I was like, okay, so this 50-cent increase is supposed to cover my electricity at home. It's supposed to cover my phone that I use for work, my transit if I need to come in, and it's supposed to cover all of that. You consider that fair? So they're like, well, that's how the client wants it. So there's very little you can do to change people's mindsets if that's how they think. And that's why many people, they stay for a year or two and then they leave. They get other jobs that pay better. For me, unfortunately, I haven't had that break. it doesn't mean that I didn't apply. I have been applying, not only in Canada, but overseas, to Australia, to New Zealand, to England. I have been applying. And my resume is good because today you can get the tools where you can match your resume and see if it matches with what the companies are looking for. So you can use those tools, and I use them when I apply for admin jobs, for executive assistant jobs. I use the tools because everybody's doing it, not just me. So companies have to think about how they're retraining staff, how they're keeping them or letting them go, because at the end of the day, it costs more to hire somebody new, retrain them, get them used to the culture, than it does to keep somebody who's experienced and somebody who understands your company culture. So that's the chapter for today. And those are the things that companies can think about. And especially if you're mentoring, you have to come to that, asking and being available to what the mentee wants from you. If the person that you're mentoring wants you to tell them what worked for you, what didn't work for you, then that's fine. I do that too. But I meet with them, first of all, asking them what it is that they want to get from the mentoring relationship, how I can help them. And then I listen to them, and then I provide the pointers. Because everybody comes looking for something different. And it's the same on the teams. So different managers have different ways of doing things. If I had still been working for Mohammed in the operations team, he most likely would not have laid me off. And he would have not put me on temporary layoff. He would have kept me on the books and continued to pay me until they found something else for me. Because he knows my work, he knows my ethics, he knows I don't take advantage of the company. So he had a different approach to the operations manager I landed up working with on my last campaign. Because I've been put on a temporary layoff, and I'm also looking for other things. I'm looking for opportunities, looking for admin work, something less stressful, because now my ears are affected. After 5 years sitting with headphones, anybody's ears would be affected. Now I've got the blood pressure to deal with. Before I just had that low anxiety, which I could control. Now I have high blood pressure, and the drugs are not working as quickly as they should be. So I have to continue it until they come down. And with menopause, I also have a fatty liver. I'm not somebody that eats like fatty foods, high cholesterol foods. I'm not somebody that does that. So I have to continue doing that and continue exercising. And I'm helping myself. I'm drinking 10 glasses of water a day. And I fill up my jug in the morning. And so by the evening, I know I have to finish that 10 glasses of water. So we have to help ourselves too, and we have to listen to the right instructions, because today on YouTube, there's so much fake news. There's a lot of true messages about what's happening in the world and the predictions and religious teachings, but there's a lot of false messages. Even some of the videos, if you watch them, you can see like how they'll put a leg, or they'll put a picture, but it's a picture of a person with the leg turned backwards. It's not how your leg would be. It would be like the foot facing the other way. That's satanic. If you know that, it's satanic. Or they'll put a picture of somebody praying, but the hands are not in the front, the hands are joined together at the back. It's satanic. So you can stop watching those videos. You have to also be able to judge and discern. And if you can't, then get a mentor, get a spiritual director. That's why people who are more experienced can help us in that way. And menopause is not a fun thing. Believe you me. You wake up with night sweats. You can't sleep at night sometimes. It's not a fun thing to go through. And for women, it can last for 20 years. So we just have to take it one day at a time. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll do more tomorrow. But I'm sharing my experiences because if people are coming to me as a speaker, they do want to know what is it that I can share with them from my own experiences. They don't want textbook information. So I hope that helps you, and if you know of anybody hiring for an executive assistant or admin or anything where I can use my skills for speaking engagements, reach out to me and let me know. I'm also registered with the HRPA, and I'm hoping I'm going to get my break this year because I also want to stop earning minimum wage, and I want to be able to get into a higher bracket salary and to have the financial pressure lifted off me. So thank you for your time and listening to my talk.